Welcome to another Top 15, and today I'm going to be talking about my top 15 favorite episodes of Doctor Who. Now, uh, Doctor Who is a show that I started watching in 2005 with the new Doctor. My mother is a fan of Doctor Who. She was watching around like the Tom Baker era, and I actually remember the first episode of Doctor Who I ever watched was one with Peter Davison, I think his name is. I'm gonna kill myself if that's wrong, but it was like like some volcano episode, and the Master was in it. I thought that was kind of cool. It was on VHS, so I started watching this. I started watching Doctor Who in 2005 with Christopher Eccleston, and then with David Tennant. I really liked David Tennant's Doctor, and then Matt Smith. I didn't like Matt Smith's Doctor that much at all. I actually really didn't like him and the direction they took the show. And I watched most of Peter Capaldi, and that was about it. I haven't seen any with this new Jodie Whittaker Doctor. Although I do think she's a really good choice for for the Doctor after having seen Broadchurch. You know how good she is. I just don't care about Doctor Who anymore. So I really wouldn't say I'm a fan of Doctor Who, but I was at one point a fan of Doctor Who, specifically the earlier era of the Eccleston and Tennant, before they changed things up a little bit. So these are just going to be my top 15 episodes, and yes, they are mostly going to be from that era of Doctor Who. But to contradict myself, number 15 is Time of the Doctor, which is Matt Smith's last episode, I believe. And like I said, I didn't like much of Matt Smith's run, although what I do like from him is oddly his last three little episode arc. You had Time of the Doctor, Name of the Doctor, Day of the Doctor. I don't know if that order, but I think this was his last episode where he regenerates. I just felt like it was, I didn't like him much, but it did feel like a good end to his story, a good conclusion to his arc. And the story of the episode itself was interesting. He's getting older and whatnot. And I thought that was all pretty cool. Number 14 is Listen. Now this is the only Peter Capaldi episode I have on here. It's like monsters hiding under the covers or something. I don't remember much about the episode. I might rewatch it at some point, but I do know that I did enjoy the episode a lot. I thought it was pretty good. It did seem more similar to some of the earlier David Tennant episodes that I really like, that are going to be much higher on my list. Number 13 is The Doctor's Daughter. I think this is season 3 with Martha Jones. It's a fun little episode. I think I like the twist sort of that they do in the end with what's going on in the situation. I liked the character of Jenny they introduced in this episode. I would have liked it more if maybe they ever brought her back. I kind of think that's never going to happen at this point, but it was fun. Number 12 is The Day of the Doctor. I previously mentioned that as Matt Smith's little 3-episode arc, but really it's just David Tennant coming back as the Doctor again for that 50th anniversary special, and John Hurt playing the new Doctor just because they couldn't get Christopher Eccleston back. They made up a whole new character to slip in there, which is fine. It's a fun episode. It's cool. It was nice to see David Tennant back again, but yeah, it was pretty good. Number 11 is Bad Wolf and / Parting of the Ways. I should have mentioned this earlier, but I'm kind of lumping two-parters together just because I didn't want to try and differentiate them, and honestly that kind of would have required rewatching the two-parters so I know which one I think is actually better. But so I'm just putting two-parters together, so you're going to see that more frequently in my list. This is, of course, Christopher Eccleston's last episode. I think it's just a good conclusion to his character. I know it feels a little early, but it was the first season of Doctor Who, of the new Doctor Who, in my opinion, is almost like a reintroduction to this character. So I think you had to get onto the topic of regeneration at some point, and I guess it kind of works for setting up David Tennant's Doctor a little more, so he can now he's the Doctor. Now you got this, It's almost like, I don't know. I think it helped David Tennant coming on earlier, but I don't know. Number 10 is Army of Ghosts / Doomsday. This is the season 2 finale. It's just, I think it's a pretty good finale, a good episode. I liked. It was cool, the introduction of Cult of Skaro, even though I didn't really care for them, where their storyline eventually ended up. Daleks in Manhattan is a horrible episode in my opinion. So, but it was cool introducing them. It was cool showing just how powerful the Daleks are in comparison with the Cybermen, and seeing those interact. Which I don't know if that's something that ever happened in old Doctor Who. Maybe it has, maybe it hasn't. If it hasn't happened before this, then I guess that was cool for Doctor Who fans to see. It was cool enough for me to see, I suppose. And more stuff with the alternate realities. I always like that. Number 9 is Turn Left. Turn Left. Speaking of alternate realities, it's a good, alternate reality. It's interesting to see these timelines and the choices, how it all spirals out, kind of. Number 8 is Midnight. This is like one of the horror episodes you get in David Tennant's run. You get a couple of these. This is much more horror. It's a lot creepier. This whole setup, thing knocking on the door. It's really cool, really fun episode, and made number 8, so I like it. Number 7, this is the Stolen Earth / Journey's End. This is the season 4 finale, and it's kind of like the finale of David Tennant, but he doesn't regenerate because he has all the extra specials towards the end. So this is kind of a culmination of his run, but then it isn't at the same time. We get all these companions kind of like coming together, Avengers style, and teaming up, which is cool, seeing all these people interact, and the characters from Torchwood and the Sarah Jane adventures, them being brought in here too, was pretty cool. Number 6 is The Empty Child / The Doctor Dances. This is a really good story arc. Definitely one of the best 2-parters in my opinion. It's World War II episode with the Are You My Mummy gas mask. It's really one of the more iconic episodes of the first season of Doctor Who in my opinion. And then moving on to number 5, we're going to have The Impossible Planet / the Satan Pit, which I'd just like to start this off by saying the Satan Pit is probably the greatest title for an episode of TV I've ever seen. I love that title. It's a great title, and it's a really great 2-parter. I like the introduction of the Ood. When they're more villain, I kind of prefer the Ood as more of a villain, and just the whole setup, the creepiness of it, and I don't know. It's kind of hard to say what particularly about this episode that I like, but it's kind of got horror elements a little bit, not so much as Midnight or other episodes. But number 4 is it's Utopia, Sound of Drums, Last of the Time Lords. This like 3-part season 3 finale, reintroducing Captain Jack, and also reintroducing to Doctor Who the character of the Master. I really like John Sims' portrayal of the Master. This whole story arc is really good. I mean, he makes it a lot better in my opinion. And yeah, it's definitely one of my favorite season finales. I think, yeah, I have most of them on the list. 1, 2, 3. Yeah, I have all the season finales on my list, but this one is definitely my favorite. It's just the introduction of the Master. It's such a good character, such a good villain, a good antithesis of the Doctor or whatever you want to say. And speaking of villains, number 3 is going to be Dalek. This is the Christopher Eccleston episode where he meets quote unquote the last Dalek. And this episode really is really good in my opinion because it's a good introduction for the Daleks in general, just who they are, how much of a threat they can really be. This is just one Dalek and he's wrecking shop, and he only stops when he decides to kill himself. I think it's the best Dalek story that we've gotten on Doctor Who, and it's kind of surprising because it's only one Dalek. Every other Dalek episode, there's a boatload of them, ships and ships filled with them, and they're attacking and shit. But this is the best one because it's so much simpler. It's just one Dalek, in some 1,000-foot underground building or whatever, wrecking shop. And it was a good introduction to the, well, not really an introduction, but I keep saying that. It brought in the character of Adam, I think his name was. I think that was like an interesting little arc they had with his character in that story. I kind of wonder if they were ever going to bring something back with that character, because he does come up again in the following episode, which is also a good episode. I don't remember what the name of the episode is off the top of my head that follows Dalek. It's just something about the satellite 12. That's not right, but the big satellite that shows up again in Bad Wolf / Parting of the Ways. Number two is The End of Time. This is the Doctor. This is David Tennant's Doctor regenerating, his very last episode until he shows up again in the Day of the Doctor 50th anniversary. This is, of course, bringing back the Master, who I mentioned I like a lot, and it also, a very nice touch of this episode that I think brought it all together is having Donna's grandfather. I'm blanking on the character's name. I know it's Bernard Gibbons plays him. I can't think of. I feel like it starts with a W, but I don't know. But I don't know. You know who I'm talking about? Donna's grandfather. Possibly starts with a W, played by Bernard Gibbons. This has been a long video so far. These are always tough to make, these top 15s, because it's just a lot of talking in a row. But anyway, they bring him on as the main companion, and I think it's a really good choice. It's really strong for the episode because he's a really good actor in this, and I'm really just blanking on that name, and it's just bothering me. I mean, I don't know. I can't get past that. I like the Master coming back. I like the conclusion to David Tennant's Doctor, bringing back all the old characters for the little cameo and bits. I think that's a really nice touch. It's nice. It's a nice send off for his Doctor. And I'll move on to my number one favorite, which might not be a surprise based on some of the other episodes I've said. My number one favorite is going to be Blink. This is just a great episode. I think it's one of the best episodes of Doctor Who, hands down. I know a lot of people think that too. The Weeping Angels are such great villains to use for this episode. And kind of the standalone nature of the episode too. The Doctor's not in it much. It's relying more on these secondary characters they introduced just for this episode. Carey Mulligan, I think her name is in it, and you see her in other stuff, and she's a really great actress. It's kind of a shame they didn't bring back her character for more episodes of Doctor Who. And I really like the Weeping Angels and the way that they're used in this episode. I know, unfortunately, they come back in later episodes and not used as good, because the whole method of attacking, so to speak, sending you back in time, I think that's great. It's simple, but then they show up again in some spaceship in one of Matt Smith's episode, and they're just like snapping people's necks. It's just not. It doesn't feel as good. And then later on, you get a Statue of Liberty angel, which I don't understand that, but hey, it was just much more simpler back then. Just a couple of them. It's a whole creepy setting and not blinking. It's a really great episode. Definitely one of the best of Doctor Who in general. Also, just a good episode amongst TV that I've seen. I would put it up there as one of my favorite episodes of TV. That's not a list I'm ever making because I've seen way too much TV to ever consider doing that list. But I'll tell you that Blink would be on that list. And I think that's going to be it for this long episode. A lot of talking. But I will see you guys next time.